How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to Roll On Gaming. That's right, we are back on the airwaves. It took a little bit of time for the holidays, and because scheduling is still pretty tricky, but there has never been a better time to be talking about, to be jumping into, or to be jumping back into Star Wars Unlimited. Set 7 of Lawless Time is right around the corner, and we're right in the thick of spoiler season. We're already seeing some really awesome and exciting looking cards, some new mechanics, things to really get pumped about for set 7 in this already the third year of the game. It's crazy that we're already here. But we're going to talk a little bit about that. But what I want to focus on today is whether you're getting into the game, getting back into the game. There's a lot to be excited about for Star Wars Unlimited, and it starts with rotation. Now, if you're jumping in, if you're starting out, probably the biggest barrier of entry into a game like this is feeling like you have to catch up with so many cards, right? We're 3 years in. That means 6 whole sets. There's a 7th set coming in just about a month and a half. So that could feel like a lot, but one of the best ways to combat this is set rotation. And we're getting our first rotation in Star Wars Unlimited coming up when set 7 drops in March. Something that's really going to be exciting for the player base, freshen things up a bit. So the most important thing to remember about rotation, if you're new or if you just need a reminder, sets 1 through 3, Spark of Rebellion, Shadows of the Galaxy, Twilight of the Republic, are not going to be Premier legal once set 7 drops. So we're only going to be working with 4 sets: Jump to Lightspeed, Legends of the Force, Secrets of Power, and then of course a Lawless Time. Now the way you're going to be able to remember what cards are Premier legal after rotation is at the bottom of every card there's going to be either no symbol at all in the center, or there's going to be a rotation symbol like the one you see right above me, just right there, with the A on it. Jump to Lightspeed set 4, Legends of the Force set 5, Secrets of Power set 6 all have the A symbol on them. That means they're going to be Premier legal when rotation hits. Spark of Rebellion, Shadows, and Twilight do not have that symbol. Once a Lawless Time drops, that will have a letter B rotation symbol. So all the A cards and the B cards will be Premier legal. And then next year, when set 10 hits, math is hard, then that presumably will be the letter C, and sets B and C will be Premier legal after rotation. So rotation's really going to breathe some life into Star Wars Unlimited. It's going to get a lot of the cards that people are tired of seeing or used to throwing in decks. They're all going to be gone, right? All the oppressive stuff, all the really great stuff that we've had for over 2 years now is going to be out the window. So that's going to force people to come up with a lot more creative decks, new ways to think of things. It's going to take some of those cards that maybe were a little pushed or maybe a little less pushed. It's going to take those and just remove them and breathe some new creativity into the atmosphere of Star Wars Unlimited. Really excited for that. But beyond that, there's a lot of different ways that you can get into this game. Again, you know, whatever flavor you see fit, that's the way to do it. But we're going to talk about a way for new players to get into the game here, and it starts with Intro Battle Hoth. Now, if you've never played Star Wars Unlimited before, you've never even played a TCG before maybe, then Intro Battle Hoth is the way to go for you. There's going to be a couple different ways that you can break into the game with sealed products. Intro Battle Hoth is sort of your first step into the larger world of both trading card games and Star Wars Unlimited as a whole. It has everything you need right in the box. Comes with 2 decks, comes with a really cool like board game kind of mat that you play on that looks actually very sick, and I wouldn't mind if they made that into a regular Premier product, but that's just me. And it's really easy to learn. Not only do they have written instructions, but they also have video instructions. There's a QR code where you can watch the opening scenario, or you can, you know, again, traditionally in board games and card games, you just read the instructions right there. You can do that as well. The decks are already set up in a way where you just drop them down and play. They're in the order you need to make every introductory scenario exactly the same, so you don't get confused. It's curated in a way that It's going to be easy for new players to pick up on the mechanics. It's going to go through all of the mechanics sort of step by step, which is really great. So really a product that highlights new players and really puts an emphasis on teaching them from the ground up. The nice thing about that is that after you've done your introductory scenario, done your first ever game of Star Wars Unlimited, there is some replayability involved. Again, I mentioned that the decks are in order; they're in numbered order based on the first scenario, the first game that you're going to play. Once you've played that first game, you can shuffle the deck like you would normally and play the deck that way, and you're going to be guaranteed to get a different opening hand, different play lines, different cards that you may have seen in your first game. On top of that, the bases are double-sided. They have a 20 health base and a 30 health base, so you can experiment with the 20 HP bases, and once you've got the hang of those, flip over that base, use the 30 HP base. Then your games will be a little bit longer. There'll be a little bit more strategy involved between you and your opponent, and trying to get your opponent's base down those 10 extra levels of HP. So some replayability there. Probably the best thing about this product is its low entry cost. $19.99 gives you all of that, gives you the 2 decks, and that's really one of the big key points of Intro Battle Hoth, especially for newer players who don't maybe necessarily want to make the biggest investment in learning the game. You can just get everything you need for 20 bucks. It's a pretty great deal. Now, with Intro Battle Hoth, it's not all pros, right? If you've played TCGs before and you know how basic card game mechanics work, this might just be a little bit oversimplified to you. Not all the cards do a lot of stuff in terms of crazy abilities or anything like that. There aren't a ton of cards in the Intro Battle Hoth box that you can just take and transplant into your premier decks if you're a seasoned player, or if you already have a library of cards that you're working with for Star Wars Unlimited. We did a video on our channel going through all of the Intro Battle Hoth cards and some of the staples that you might be able to take and turn into Premier Legal cards. Well, they're Premier Legal, but that actually might make an impact in your Premier deck. So I'll link that in the description box below. You're not going to find a ton of them, but again, if you're looking to learn the game at its sort of foundational level, this is the way to do it. So you've played a few games of Star Wars Unlimited using Intro Battle Hoth, or maybe you're a seasoned TCG player, you've already played different card games, you just want to learn about this card game and you're familiar with TCG mechanics and the way things work generally with trading card games. Maybe Spotlight decks are the way to go for you. Now, there's going to be some key differences between Intro Battle Hoth and a Spotlight deck. Most notably, you only get the 1 deck. In Intro Battle Hoth, you get 2. So if you want to just sit down right out of the box and play with someone, you're going to need to buy a second Spotlight deck. Obviously, that comes with a higher price point. Spotlight decks are $24.99 as opposed to the $19.99 for the Intro Battle Hoth. You do get a booster pack in every Spotlight deck, but you can do the math as to whether or not you wanted to buy 2 Spotlight decks and play with someone. There's obviously going to be a little bit more of an investment there. Now, what do you get for your investment? That is the key. You're going to get a more cohesive deck build with synergies that you probably wouldn't find in something like an Intro Battle Hoth product. There's going to be a lot of different cards with abilities that synergize with the leader and with some of the other cards in that deck. Now, I say abilities. Some of the abilities on these cards make them more readily available to put into a premier deck. They're more competitive right out of the box, and we're seeing some of the special rarity cards, especially, you know. Anyway, we're seeing some of these special rarity cards from these Spotlight decks make an immediate impact in Premier at the highest levels of play in Star Wars Unlimited. Some of these cards are honestly the best options you can find. We'll see some of them in the staples from each set as we move forward here. But already, if you buy a Spotlight deck, you've got a play set of those special rarity cards right off the rip. You can get some practice with them in your Spotlight deck, learn how to use them effectively, and then transfer them immediately over to a Premier deck that you might build later, and then just be ready to go with those, which is great. The other thing that's great about Spotlight decks is that if for every new set, it does cover the new mechanics of that set. So piloting for Jump to Lightspeed, already you're learning how to pilot. Legends of the Force mechanic was new when that set was released, so it walked you through how to use the Force mechanic effectively. And then most recently, Secrets of Power, you had things like Disclose and Spy tokens that were baked into these Spotlight decks. So just a couple of different ways and a couple of different methods for price points that, again, your decisions may vary on this front, but Spotlight decks or Intro Battle Hoth, you can't really go wrong when you're jumping in to Star Wars Unlimited. Now, if you've already gotten this far and you're ready to go to the next step in terms of what cards you need to be targeting after rotation, or if you're a player who's been around a while and you're trying to figure out how to prioritize your collection as rotation is almost upon us, we're going to talk about some staples and some cards to watch after rotation hits. So we're going to take a look at some of the cards that I think you're going to want to use as foundation pieces for every set once rotation hits. We're going to have 3 must-haves from every set: Jump to Lightspeed, Legends of the Force, and Secrets of Power. These must-haves are cards that I think every player should have a full playset of and prioritize those first before getting into some other cards, because they're going to do you a lot of favors down the road. We're also going to look at some staple cards that I think, again, players should prioritize in their collections because they're going to be able to serve them in a number of ways. You're going to be able to plug them in a ton of different decks, and they've already proven that they're good at the highest levels of the game. Now, you'll notice there's going to be some omissions in here, some cards that I thought were really good, but maybe not necessarily fit in a wide range of decks. So if I'm missing any, let me know in the comments down below. If there's any that are egregious, I apologize. These are just my lists and my opinions, and hopefully they help you out as you're organizing or building your collection after rotation. We're going to start with Jump to Lightspeed, and a lot of the must-haves that are here are not going to be a surprise. Blue Leader is a card that is everywhere, and I mean everywhere right now. It's such great value. You can play it on 3 resources to ambush into a space unit and eliminate a threat before it gets crazy, especially in the piloting environment. If pilots continue to provide a boost that really makes an impact in the game, Blue Leader is going to be there to nip that before it ends up being too much of a problem. Sabine's Masterpiece, with what we're going to be seeing in a Lawless Time and more aspects hitting the table, that can only go well for Sabine's Masterpiece. And this is a rare that is actually among the highest priced rares in the game right now. It's not super ridiculous in terms of price point. It's floating right around $8. But to give you an idea, that's about the same price as you would pay right now for a Devastator, which is a legendary and one of the best legendaries that you'll find in Jump to Lightspeed. Tremendous closer for villainy. One that I've put into almost every aggression deck that I've ever built. So I would say that these 3 units, coincidentally all space units, are the must-haves from Jump to Lightspeed. But they're not the only good cards in the set, right? Let's take a look at some of the staples for Jump to Lightspeed. Hilariously, it starts with a base. Until Data Vault goes away, in whatever form or fashion that ends up taking, Data Vault is going to be one of the most prevalent bases in the meta. It is proven that the trade-off for getting the extra health is not something that you are going to be worried about. Those 10 extra cards in your deck are worth it. So make sure you have multiple copies of Data Vault to be able to put in multiple decks. If you're not, playing all aggro decks, they're going to end up serving you well. A couple of Vigilance Villainy cards here. Director Krennic, the classic 2-drop 2/2 shielded. But as we continue to get more units with the when defeated ability, Director Krennic's still going to hold its value. We've seen Director Krennic as a very useful opening round play in a lot of decks. I think having Director Krennic is going to be important. No Glory Only Results. One of the staple removal cards in all of Star Wars Unlimited, and is only going to get better when the giant swath of removal cards goes away in rotation. So things like Super Laser Blast, Power of the Dark Side, Vanquish, Fell the Dragon, Rivals Fall, all gone. No Glory Only Results remains, and that's probably why it's one of the most expensive rares in the game right now. Again, floating somewhere in that $8 range, the same price as a Devastator, which is crazy. Phoenix Squadron A-Wing, just again, a 2-drop staple in space for a 3-2. There's no ability, but especially with the prevalence of command heroism, having this in your space arena turn 1 is something you're never going to complain about, especially if you follow it up round 2 with Chewbacca. Chewbacca pilot is gross, and it's going to be here for 3 more sets. I say gross, of course, in a good way, but being able to put it on your ship, put Chewbacca as a pilot, and prevent that ship from being defeated or returned to hand by enemy card abilities is just a monster ability. One really that's only counteracted at this point by a few things, namely no glory only results. So Chewbacca is going to be an important pilot, especially if the space arena continues to be a thing that people enjoy playing with. Speaking of the space arena, Red 5, just a card that can really rack up a lot of damage for you, because if you're finding a way to damage units, whether it's with the Padme Amidala leader ability or other ping effects that you may have, and even if you're not pinging, even if you're just trading into units and maybe trying to get some more value trades out of it, Red 5 is going to be the way to ensure that you're able to take out more units just by attacking. Red 5 is one that I just hate seeing across the table for me. Guerrilla Soldier, more often than not, you're going to get a ready unit out of Guerrilla Soldier when you play it, because that indirect damage is going to go right to base, and if it doesn't go to base and it goes on units, then maybe you're playing Red 5 and can take advantage of that. But Guerrilla Soldier really does put your opponent in a tough spot, no matter what happens when you play it out, because of that indirect damage. And finally, Stolen AT Hauler, just value. You know, obviously the ability can go against your favor when your opponent takes the unit, but 3 costs for a 4/5 is something that a lot of people have been utilizing despite the negative drawback, and it's pretty reasonable legendary to acquire at this point. At the time of taping, it's right around $4 or $5 to get, so one that you definitely want to keep an eye on if you're looking at the space arena. If you're looking at cunning, Stolen AT Hauler is one that you're gonna probably have a good time with. Moving along to Legends of the Force. Now, there are going to be some higher value cards that we're going to talk about in a little bit, but let's get to our must-haves. Again, 2 heroism cards and a villainy card. You can see where heroism is in the meta right now. We got to start with Yaddle. Yaddle is a great 2-drop. It's a great turn 1 play. The 2/4 with Restore 1, having an ability to give other Jedi Restore 1, just pure value town. Definitely, along with Craving Power, actually on the top 10 lists of average costs for a rare right now in the market. Again, floating around somewhere $3 to $4 at the time of recording. So Yaddle is a great one. Craving Power, I mentioned. Overwhelming Barrage, if you remember OB from Spark of Rebellion, is going away. Unless they reprint it, no more OB. Craving Power is the new hotness of OB. It's a little bit more fair, but still a really great upgrade that I think all command villainy decks are going to want to have. So Craving Power, I think it's a must-have just because the ceiling on this card is tremendous. The ability to have effective removal and upgrade your unit at the same time, really great. Thumbs up for Craving Power, and looks amazing in hyperspace and hyperfoil as well. And then, of course, if you've played Star Wars Unlimited over the course of the last 9 months, 6 months, whatever the case may be, Kelleran Beck is absolutely disgusting. Is a really great unit, being able to bring in another unit, and you know, that's just something that you can continue to abuse in the late game. Kelleran, I can't say enough about Kelleran because I've been Kelleraned more times than I care to admit. So make sure you have a playset of Kelleran Beck. It's a must. If you're playing heroism, you have to have Kelleran because it's just going to make your deck that much better. Let's talk about some of the staples from Legends of the Force. Again, we're keeping to the theme here with 2 Vigilance Villainy cards, Karis and Talzin's Assassin. Karis in the same vein as Yaddle, just not as good because you're not You don't necessarily have the force to spend or want to spend it when Karis is defeated, but a 2-cost 2/4 is something that's going to be very valuable. So throw Karis in there. Talzin's Assassin, if you have the force, being able to give -3/-3, sort of the low end of the old Luke ability from Spark of Rebellion. Talzin's Assassin will win you some games just on its own. Put the team on the back and let's go Talzin's Assassin. From a 4-cost Vigilance Villainy to a 4-cost Vigilance Heroism, Itinerant Warrior does pretty much the opposite of Talzin's Assassin. Instead of giving -3/-3, it heals 3 from your base. It also does come in shielded, which makes it very annoying. And, you know, as a 4/4 on top of that. So Itinerant Warrior, really good. And then Secretive Sage, continuing the theme with Director Krennic. 2-cost 2/2 shielded. It's good. Cheer It. We'll move on to Cheer It. Sentinels are not going anywhere. Cheer It being able to reduce the damage coming in using the Force. If you have a Force stack, is something that can be very annoying if you can't get rid of it right away. You just sit there and soak damage and soak damage and soak damage. So Cheer It, we love. Gunji, 2-drop 2/5. If we thought a 2-drop 2/4 was good, I present you with a 2-drop 2/5. There doesn't need to be much else said there. We talked a little bit about Spotlight exclusive cards, those special rarity cards. Obi-Wan Kenobi, among the best in the game. Getting an automatic 3/5 Sentinel for 3. Being able to re-rack that Sentinel every time you play a Force unit. Obi-Wan Kenobi, very good card for heroism. Again, a lot of really good command heroism cards, as you'll continue to see throughout the course of this video. You know, we'll see how much command heroism continues to thrive after rotation, but right now it's at the top of its game. Adi Gallia, again, 2-cost 2/4. This is a good stat line. We're keeping that theme going, and then the ability to deal that extra damage when your opponent plays events is something that they should not take for granted. If you're playing a Force deck, there's probably no better card to be playing than Kiadi Mundi to be able to draw 2 cards just by using the Force, and you get a 4/4 body on top of it. I mean, it's Chef's Kiss top notch. It's really great stuff. And a card that you can use when you have the Force but doesn't make you spend it, that provides a lot of value, is Darth Tyrannus. Again, those special rarity cards really gives you some power on your board. Ambushing in with the Force, it's shielded, so you can either deal damage and then take the shield to protect yourself, or take the damage on the shield, and you're feeling pretty good about having a 4/3 that hopefully just took out another one of your opponent's units. So Legends of the Force cards, these are the staples that I think are going to be important going forward. But let's talk about some of the higher value cards. Darth Vader, Twilight of the Apprentice, Anakin Skywalker, and HK-47. Now, Darth Vader, Twilight of the Apprentice is sort of the leader in the clubhouse in terms of expensive villainy cards. It's tied right now with HK for right about $15. Darth Vader's a little tricky because if you don't have a way to give Darth Vader ambush, he's kind of slow. So how do you combat that? Well, Timely Intervention is going to be gone unless it gets reprinted. Energy Conversion Lab is going to be gone. I don't think that one's going to get reprinted, but maybe. We'll see. Maybe by the time this video comes out, I'll be wrong. Who knows? But giving Darth Vader ambush with things like Sheehan Flurry, which is a Legends of the Force card. The Dryden Voss Leader, which is a Secrets of Power card. These will be things that'll be important to see how Darth Vader's power level continues to scale after rotation. Whether or not it fits into your build or not remains to be seen. HK-47, again, this is a legendary version of the 2-cost 2/4, but that stacking damage is something that can really add up if you're able to kill a lot of units while HK-47 is on the table. And then, of course, Anakin Skywalker rounding out around $18, $19-ish in that range at the time of this recording. One of the most expensive, if not the most expensive legendary in Legends of the Force, for good reason. You know, being able to potentially give a unit -6/-6 or give 2 units -3/-3 is very valuable, especially if the trend continues that we're seeing with a Lawless Time and cards are going to be able to abuse and ignore aspect penalties. This is something that if you're able to get heroism and villainy in your deck, Anakin's going to be able to continue to provide a lot of value for you. So just some high value cards to watch. as we move into rotation. Not necessarily must-haves, but can be really good in the right deck. And then we come, of course, to Secrets of Power. Now, again, we're going to save some of the higher value cards towards the end of our discussion, but one of the highest value cards in the set is also unfortunately a must-have in your collection. Karis Nemec, probably one of the best opening round plays you could have in Star Wars Unlimited. It's reflected by the price point, the most expensive rare on the market as of the time of this recording. Probably floating around between 10 and 12 bucks just for a regular version, not even a variant. But Karis Nemec lives up to it. The 3/2 hidden, the ability to leave behind a ready spy token. Karis is one that you're going to want to play if you're in heroism. I won't even say aggression heroism because, again, if you're messing around with aspects in the next set, you might be able to play Karis in a non-aggression deck just because you can. So Karis Nemec, one to watch there. The must-haves are littered with heroism cards in Secrets of Power. Bo-Katan is another Luke replacement. Luke from Spark of Rebellion, of course. But just the ability to give all your opponent's units -3/-3. And then for every unit that gets defeated, you're able to give an experience token. Bo-Katan is tremendous value, and it's going to get cheaper to play Bo-Katan because of credit tokens, which we'll talk about in a little bit, which is just even more scary to get Bo-Katan out earlier. I don't even want to think about that right now because I still have Luke PTSD, and I'm sure I'm going to have more of it when a Lawless Time drops and we get more Luke Skywalkers. But I digress. And then, of course, Captain Typho. I mentioned special rarity cards. Captain Typho may be the best S rarity card that we have in Star Wars Unlimited. You can only get it as a variant in booster packs or in its normal version in Spotlight decks. Highly recommend going out and getting the Padme Amidala Spotlight deck just to get Captain Typhos in your collection. It's that good and will continue to be that good as long as it is in Premier legality. So it's scary to think about how long we're going to have to deal with Captain Typho, but here we are. Let's look at the staples from Secrets of Power. Only one Vigilance Villainy card here. It's Condemn. Condemn is proven to be a really powerful and useful upgrade for shutting down your opponent's units, being able to give leaders or other units -6/-0 by disclosing on attack is something that is really good, turns out. So if you're a control player, if you're a villainy player, Condemn's probably one to have in your arsenal. Hyperspace Disaster, as spoiled by Roll-On Gaming, which is very exciting, is also on that list of top rares. Cost-wise right now on the market, I think it's floating around 4th highest cost, and just provides a real immediate answer to any space threat you might face. For 7 resource costs, obviously it's a little later in the game where you might get it, but again, Hyperspace Disaster proving to be a pretty good answer, and one you're probably going to want to have in case the space meta goes crazy. Imperial Dark Trooper, not a 2/4 but a 3/3. However, you're able to have that Battlefield Marine stat line, which is something that villainy players haven't had, so useful there. Mita Bonteri, another tremendous 2-cost 2/4 with Restore, being able to draw you a card. Can't say enough good things about Mita Bonteri. That card's going to continue to be awesome. Again, Command Heroism is just on point. Decks with Mina, Obi-Wan, and Captain Typho as their openers are ridiculously scary to go against. And then throw a Kelleran on the back end. This Staples list has a lot of Command Heroism options for you if you so choose to use them. Gonk Power Droid, in a world where potentially resupply, Super Laser Technician don't exist, this is another way without credit tokens to be able to reduce the cost of your units, which is a good thing and something you can do right after turn 1. You can do it in round 2 when you attack with Gonk Droid. Can also act as a pseudo sentinel because your opponent's not going to want that. So they might attack into this right away, and now you've saved some damage on your base. But obviously you'd rather get the resource discount. Outer Rim Constable is going to be the new version of Disabling Fang Fighter. It's a unit that you can put out that defeats an upgrade. This is going to prove very useful, I'm sure, even as a sideboard option. Outer Rim Constable has to be a 3 of, just to make sure you have it and have it readily available to you if upgrades continue to be impactful in the meta. Sintakaz, probably the best plot card that exists, just because it gives you that immediate attack. I guess there might be some debate on the best plot card, but I like Sintakaz. I think, again, if you're at 6 resources, you're deploying on 6, being able to immediately attack thanks to plotting out Sinta is something that your opponent might not be ready for, and if they're not, then you can catch them off guard and deal some damage in ways that they really wouldn't have wanted you to. So I like Sinta a lot. I also like Aggressive Negotiations a lot. It's going to potentially be a really powerful pump in the end game when your hand is a little bit fuller than it would be early on. You can sort of deal that lethal damage with Aggressive Negotiations that your opponent isn't expecting, whether it's to a unit or to your opponent's base. Aggressive Negotiations, with as much as we're valuing card draw currently, is definitely going to be one to watch. And then rounding it out with another 2-cost 2/4 Bail Organa, being able to discard for a spy token and still have the 2/2/4 stat line. Just value town all day. So Bail Organa is really not going anywhere. Let's talk about the high value cards. Again, I mentioned Karis Nemec, the most expensive rare right now in Star Wars Unlimited. There's also Queen Amidala, which is the most expensive legendary right now in Star Wars Unlimited. Queen Amidala is absolutely worth the price of admission. Building your board, protecting herself, making it so that your opponent has to deal with it quickly or deal with the spies quickly, which again provides protection for your other units and your base. Queen Amidala hands down deserves to be the most expensive legendary right now, and we're seeing Queen Amidala in a lot of decks. The other 2 cards on this list, they're high value because of their rarity and not necessarily because of their use case just yet. Darth Nihilus and Darth Traya are legendaries that are ones that people enjoy from the Knights of the Old Republic 2 game. They're Legends cards, which again, a lot of people have a market for, but also they don't have prestige variants in Carbonite packs. So the only place you can get these legendaries is in regular booster packs. There are also some higher level competitive promos if you do some winning that you could get Nihilus and Traya in that way. But for sort of the layman like me, the only way to get these is in booster packs or the secondary market, which is driving up their price point. So Nihilus right now at the time of recording floating around $14-ish. Darth Traya floating around 10, 11. So if you're looking to get to build up your Sith collection, you might run into some barriers in terms of cost with Nihilus and Traya. That doesn't mean they're bad. It means that they're hard to get. So be advised on that. They haven't really found their way into the heart of the meta just yet, but I'm hopeful that they will, because I love playing both of these cards, and I like my dark side units and characters. So I'll definitely be keeping an eye on those two. But go out and get yourself some Karis Nemecs, some Queen Amidalas if you're able, because these cards are really powerful and are really going to do a lot for your heroes and decks moving forward after rotation. And if all that wasn't enough, Set 7 Year 3. A Lawless Time drops in March, and we're already seeing some awesome looking stuff. Multi-aspect units are going to be really, really fun, because you're going to have to find creative ways to get these units into your deck, whether that's building around them with your leader and base aspect pairings, or using things like the new common bases to be able to cheat out aspects, ignore aspects on your cards. It's going to make for some really creative ways for people to build decks, find new combos, and take advantage of the fact that you're going to have more than 2 aspects on the board. We're already seeing cards that let you profit from that. And speaking of profit, the new mechanic of credit tokens in Set 7 is something that looks really, really fun. A temporary resource that's not going to get you to your leader sooner, but going to be able to let you drop some of these higher cost units earlier on in the game. We're already seeing some really high cost units, upgrades, things of that nature that you're going to be able to pay for, partially with credit tokens to get them out sooner. So bringing these big, powerful, impactful things onto the board in earlier rounds, I think is going to turn the meta on its head in a way that I think it's positive for the game, and I'm really excited to see. And speaking of excited, There's one more thing that I would advise, and that is to have fun with it. Whether you're just starting out with Star Wars Unlimited or you're excited for rotation and have been around since day one, Star Wars Unlimited is looking really, really strong right now. I'm really excited for set 7. I'm really excited to see what people do with 3 sets out of the card pool, to be able to create new things, to be able to look at the game in different ways, and honestly, to just keep having a good time. You see Darth Revan here. Darth Revan really hasn't broken his way into the premier environment yet. I'm going to keep playing with it though, because it's one of my favorites and it's fun, and that's what this game is about. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's helped you out. Let us know again if there's something you think we've missed, or if you have any thoughts on some of the cards that we presented here today. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.